I did really well with the real estate, to be honest, did well in my business. We saved a lot of money. I mean, and I believe in financial prudency and counting all your money and knowing how much you make and knowing how much you spend. And I work the money that I've earned, and I'm very focused about it.
Welcome to the Going Long Podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels, and I am really looking forward to you taking in today's conversation because it is one of these that's just going to really help you move forward faster, and it's awesome. So listen, here's the thing though. Thanks to you, we continue to have our podcast moving up and up and up the charts, attracting amazing guests that are helping to give you wonderful insights and actionable content so that you can get to your goals much faster. And a large part of that is because you continue to leave your honest written reviews as well as your ratings. If you are open to that and you haven't done it yet and you want to get over to the Apple Podcast, we made a little video here. It's really easy, but and you probably already know how to do it. Just go ahead and leave your honest written review as well as rating. Let us know what you'd like to see change so that we can continue to make this podcast awesome for you. And for those of you who are interested in understanding how you can go and get the podcast, you can see the old episodes, the very first times, and when I was getting started and super nervous and all that kind of stuff. Just go to billykeels.com. Once you're there, go to the podcast tab. And then from there, you can find every single podcast. You can find the audio version. You can find the notes, the show notes, the video version, all that kind of stuff. Just go to billykeels.com and the podcast tab, and you will be right there. And then for those of you who are still shy and you want to get in part of the accredited investor club, make sure you send me an email and send that to aiclub@billykeels.com. You and I will connect. Don't worry, I don't bite. We'll get great connection. You can find out more about what we're doing on the Accredited Investor Club, meet some other accredited investors, and also find and gain access to wonderful, amazing, amazing deals. So once again, aiclub@billykeels.com to send me an email. And for those of you who want to actually find out, what is it like to live in an appreciation market and working maybe in the Hollywood area, or maybe you want to know what it was like living in New York City, trying to get into, investing and things like that. Well, you know what? Today's conversation is going to be absolutely amazing because we have somebody who, growing up, he thought about being a break dancer and a BMX bike rider and being able to memorize movies from the 80s. He then went on to do some really amazing things. He wiped out $70,000 in student debt. I can definitely relate to that. And he was able to do that through investing and building businesses. He's gone on even to be one of the producers in an Emmy award-winning show. If any of this kind of stuff resonates with you, you're really going to enjoy today's conversation because today's guest was going to not only help you to give some new ideas, he's going to help you to be able to play even louder, getting to your goals even faster and sooner. And just after these couple words, you're going to hear today's conversation with Mr. Joe DiSanto. So we're going to get to that just after this. Are you looking for a way to get to long-distance investing success, but not spending all the effort? You want to do it in a way that's much faster and it doesn't cause as much pain? Well, listen, I can save you all of that stress. Just go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes and you can pick up your free PDF to help you on your road to long-distance investing success. So you know what? If you want to learn how to play louder and achieve your long-distance investing success, then guess what? Today's the conversation that you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, because today's guest, listen to this, not only spent his childhood riding BMX bikes, also breakdancing and memorizing 1980s movies. That's really, really awesome. And I really want him to tell us more about that. He also learned life lessons about money that helped him to wipe out $70,000 in student loans. That's a story I can relate to. And you know what? Since then, he's gone on to build multiple multi-million-dollar businesses as well as invest millions in real estate. And he's even produced his own Emmy-winning TV show. And I'm sure he's going to tell us more about that. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome to today's conversation the founder of Play Louder, Mr. Joe DiSanto. Joe, welcome to the show, man.
How's it going? What's happening, man? Thanks for having me. Thanks for the awesome intro.
Hey, man, thank you very much. You make it easy. You make it easy. And I love your energy. I love the conversation in the beginning, in the green room, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I know Yeah. And I know the Going Long family is going to learn so much from your story today. So
I'm going to do my best.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to knock it out of the park. But hey, no pressure. So here's the thing, Joe. I like to ask everybody the same 5 questions. You're going to get 2 in the beginning. You're going to get 3 in the end, and in the middle, we're going to get to know you. But I have absolutely no idea what those questions are going to be. So let's jump into letting the Going Long family get to know you and help us understand, where do you live in the United States?
I currently live in the Tampa, Florida area. And I know some of your listeners are in Europe, not in the US. So that's the southeast of the United States, lower southeastern tip. I've been here for about 3 years. Mm-hmm. Prior to moving here, I lived in Los Angeles, which I'm sure most everybody knows about. That's the southern West Coast, Southern California. And that's where I had those businesses you mentioned and worked on the TV show. And 3 years ago, decided to flip my life up and try to make more time for my family. We moved to Florida, and now I'm doing my new thing.
Well, that is fantastic, and I appreciate you letting us know that. And we're going to dive into more of your backstory here in just a second.
Sure.
And you know what? If you could also help us understand, Joe, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours?
Last night, I was listening to a book while I was falling asleep, and I decided to listen to a book my wife recently listened to called Mothering Our Boys. And she's read most of the books about parenting. I'm kind of doing my other work, but I try to get into it when I can. And every time I do, I'm always like glad I did, because you just learn so much about like what's going on in your kid's head and also how to like be a better parent, essentially, which is something I'm always working on. So
you're not alone, man. You're not alone.
I was really happy that I turned it on. I learned a bunch of good things about my 6-year-old.
All right. Fantastic. Love that. Getting in touch and learning more about your children, which I think is, I always
get a little I'm kind of a sensitive person. So I start talking about my kid and I get a little choked up. It's funny.
That's quite all right.
You're allowed
crying, to be sensitive here.
It might happen.
It's all good, man. It's all good. We love emotion here. Emotions welcomed. Emotions welcomed. So, and I know the Going Long family.
Dads cry emotional too.
Yes, we do. Trust me. Yes, we definitely do. So here's the thing, Joe, the Going Long family, they already know this about me. You're just finding this out. I give myself this really impossible task because I try to tell your backstory in like 3.5 seconds, right? Mm-hmm. That's impossible. You've done way too many things.
You did a good job, though. I mean,
thank you very much. Thank you very much.
If we follow the Costanza rule, get in, make them laugh, get out. I mean, boom. Honestly,
then I was good. Then I was good. Okay, well, this show's over. Here we go. Thanks, everyone.
I'll expound.
Okay, all right. I figured you might. No, so here's the thing. So if you could just help us understand more about your backstory in your own words, not my 3.5 seconds. And Joe, one of the things that really is helpful for the Going Long family is if you can talk about some of the major decisions that you made to get to this point in your journey. And then from there, we'll see where the conversation goes.
Sure. Okay.
Over to you.
Well, we'll start at the beginning. My breakdancing crew was called Steady Rockers Creation. And I was the head spin and suicide flip guy.
Wow. All right.
Granted, cool. I was like 9, but I was pretty good, I think, for that age. From there, eventually made it to college, all that. But my parents, we were talking about this before. My parents were divorced when I was 10. And it was kind of a rough divorce. So I was kind of estranged from my dad for a while. So I was kind of on my own with my mom. She wasn't very good with money. I mean, she was a great mom, but she just wasn't very good with money. So I kind of learned what can go wrong when you don't like handle your money, basically, and deal with your money. So, but the irony is that my dad owned a business, a plumbing and heating business, which my brother and cousin still own. So while, that side of my family was fine on the money front, we just were kind of off on our own for a while, kind of struggling. So I have this like a little bit of a dichotomy of a situation there, but I learned a lot of good lessons about money through that struggle. But then also because my dad's side of the family owned a business, I also just sort of learned that you could own a business. Like it made having a business person in the family made it feel like, that's an option. It's not that big of a deal. You can do it. People do it. And so I always had this interest of wanting to own my own business, partly because I saw that it, most likely would generate more money for me. So it solved some of the potential money problems I might have. But I also just, I like to be independent. I like to kind of be in charge, essentially. Like I have lots of ideas and it's like, I want them done my way. And I kind of quickly learned that, either I was going to be an unliked employee or I was going to have to own my own business and not have people tell me not to do it that way. Yeah. So I bumped to college real quick. I was a photography major in college. I was always interested in art. I wasn't interested in my family business, which is plumbing and heating. And I went to New York, got into post-production and kind of found an industry that I really liked and it fit with everything that I was interested in. But also it was a business that I thought I could open myself. Like it was, relatively small, business. I mean, these companies have anywhere from 10 to 150 employees, but they're relatively small operations. They're personal. I mean, they're brick and mortar, they're old school. You actually have to have a location and like stuff and employees. But I kind of immediately zeroed in on it as like, this is a great track for me. If I learn this business at some point, I'm going to have to basically make the leap and start my own version of this somewhere. So that took about 9 years. I went to New York after college, was there for 2 years. It started being in the business there. And then moved to LA 2 years later, worked at a few more places, met my partners. And then my goal is to start my own business before I was 30. And we opened the doors 2 months after my 30th birthday. So we were pretty close.
It's all good. Oh, it's all good.
And then from there, it was just the four of us, me and my three partners. And we just built it up slowly over the next 10 years to about 35 to 40 employees, depending on what was going on. And, mid seven figures in revenue. And it was successful. And then I decided to blow the whole thing up. Me and my wife get cash up by my partners. And we went off and decided to move to a new state and try to focus on the family for a bit. And that's how I ended up in Florida.
Wow. Fantastic, man. So everything from being the head suicide flip guy at 9 years old, all the way to then coming full circle and heading to Florida with your young child and wife. So
quick, 34 years or something like that.
Yeah. Went by pretty quickly. Went by very, very quickly. So one of the things that you mentioned, that you got into like the post-production when you were in New York and then you decided to go to LA. Now, what was it that took you literally across country that helped you make that decision? Because sometimes it's not one of those things that people usually take lightly to move across the entire United States.
It was probably the same thing that made me think it was a good idea to like leave LA, move to Florida and totally change it up. It wasn't a business or work decision per se. We were in New York, me and my girlfriend at the time. I was working there we were there for 2 years. I was working and I always jokingly say it was like the 2-year post-college itch where you realize that you're going to be working for the rest of your life, most likely. And it's just like all comes down on you. And you're like, no more summer breaks. Like, oh my God, like this is like real life. So we kind of panicked. My girlfriend and I were like, we just need to do something different. And I wasn't particularly liking my position at the company I was at. So I was like, maybe we should just like quit our jobs and go on like a road trip. Let's just throw caution wind. We'll put it on the credit card. I know that's ridiculous, but it's like, we're not going to have that many more times in our life where we can kind of be this free. We don't have that much responsibility. Our jobs are pretty much low level. And amazingly, she was okay. She was up for it because she really wasn't enjoying living in New York City, even though she was from Long Island. So we decided to quit our jobs and go on a 2-month road trip just for fun. And we were going to come back to New York and then resume our lives. And, I figured I have enough debt as it is. Who cares if we throw another $5,000 in there? What are you going to do? We went through California, went through Los Angeles because her cousin was living there, who she was close with. And also I was like, well, let's go to Los Angeles. It's a city we've never been to. And it's another place where my work is. So who knows? Maybe we'll meet some people out there, whatever. It's funny, like everyone in New York, or at least at the time, you'd talk about LA because that was like the counter place where you could do our work, so it's New York or LA.
Yep.
And people would be like, man, LA, it's like, I could visit there, but I just never lived there. that place, it's just something about, and I'm just like, wow, this place must really suck. I mean, geez. But anyway, we get there, of course, it's like awesome. It's like sunshine, palm trees. Like, honestly, I like the city, but I felt claustrophobic in New York. It's just a concrete jungle. It's endless concrete and strange smells. And, it was fun for 2 years, but like got to LA and it was like the beach, the mountains, palm trees, sunny all the time. I was like, this place is awesome. And then we were just, we continued on, went up to Seattle to visit some other friends. And then I was like, we were going to go back. And I was like, I don't really want to go back to New York. What do you think about moving to Los Angeles? I could do my work there. You could probably do your work there. And amazingly, she was like, sure. So we decided to drive back down to LA, stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks, found an apartment, had some of our stuff shipped out, and started over in LA. But that was the reason. It was just like kind of an impromptu thing. And it pretty much rerouted my whole life in a great way. So it's interesting. It was a well-spent $5,000.
Well, and I appreciate you sharing that, because sometimes people in this, I guess what I want the Going Long audience to take, or the Going Long family to take away from that, is everybody has a different path, right? There is no predetermined path on how you're going to get to whatever you determine to be success, right? And so in the very same way that you and your girlfriend at the time decided to go from New York to LA, I was living in the United States and I was really happy, and I decided to go from the United States to Paris for a year. Well, that's since turned into 20 years and a couple countries. Too. Yeah. I mean, it's just that's like, it's all these different things, but it goes into the mindset and allowing yourself to actually go from point A to point B. You had a skill set. You knew that you'd done the post-production stuff. And so you knew that, hey, listen, we have an opportunity right now to do something that we probably won't do many years down the line. So why not find out what's out there? And so you move from one place to the next and just kind of figured out what's going on. And you stayed there for a number of years, and now you're back this way, back on the other coast of the US. But one of the things I do want to ask you about, because you've built multiple businesses, we talked about that. I definitely want us to dive into that. I did mention one of the things that you also had a part of investing in real estate. Now, Joe, one of the premises of this show, when we at least got started, it's since morphed. It's because it's not a real estate show specifically. It's really about investing and being able to invest long distance in whatever that way, shape, or form is. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about what was it that gave you the impetus to even look at real estate as a certain class of asset that you would want to invest in, and kind of maybe tell us a little bit about that experience for you. What did it actually provide you? Well,
kind of like the idea that I always wanted to own a business. I always wanted to own my own house. I mean, I don't know why exactly those two things were like top of mind when I got out of college, but they were sort of my goals. I thought I'd get to the house before probably the business. So even when I just moved to New York, I was like, we're paying rent. Maybe we should buy something, and we would go look at properties and stuff, even though we had no chance of buying them. I mean, I kind of feel bad even now, wasting so many real estate agents' time. But I was like, what if we can get one of these foreclosures or FHA thing? I don't know. I was just trying to learn about it because it just seemed like a good idea, to be honest. I mean, at first. And it was just always in my mind. And it was a primary goal, really just to buy a house for myself. So I prioritized that and the business. I mean, Los Angeles and New York are expensive real estate markets, obviously. I mean, so expensive today, but this was back in the early 2000s. So I managed to buy my first house. It was $460,000. I was 28 and I got in for 5% down. I just got into this thing, but this was 2004 when they would give a loan to basically a corpse, you know what I mean? And even I struggled to get a loan then, and it was super easy, but we did it. And right away for me, I just was so happy about it because I like to do projects. I like to fix things up. I like, just like I wanted to have a business so I could do things the way I wanted to do. I could do all that in my own house. And I felt like I was improving the value, and then I was going to get the benefit of it. And then also, I'm I would be paying rent anyway. So it's I should just turn that into an investment. I mean, there's a debate about that. I don't really know why, but there shouldn't be. And then the crazy part was the housing market, really took off between 2004 and 2007. And my house appreciated it. And what did that ended up being? Allow me to be able to do it. It allowed me to take a home equity line of credit out and start my business. And I was like, holy crap. I mean, I didn't even think that would happen, but amazing. Like it actually contributed to allowing me to start the business. It's where a lot of the startup capital came from. So I'm like, wow, this is just great. I mean, and I hadn't really put a lot of time into the function and the numbers of it and like all that sort of stuff, but just the practical, result was great. So
and we started the business. Just really quickly on that, right? Because you had a home and increased the equity and you decided, hey, listen, I'm going to take some of the equity out of this to start up another project. Once again, going back to mindset, going back to the things that you were thinking about. Now, the whole understanding the home equity line of credit and being able to use that as another benefit, is that something that you had schooling in? Is that something that someone told you about? Or how did you even get that idea? Because I know a lot of that happens to a lot of people and they just leave the equity locked in their property.
I wish I really didn't know that much about that. I remember, at the time, like prices in LA specifically, but everywhere were going up like crazy. And I remember being at a party and maybe I had owned the house for like a year or so. And I'm talking to some person and they're like, I was saying, oh yeah, I bought a house. They're like, oh, you must be happy. I'm like, yeah, no, it's been great. And they're like, well, like home prices have like increased like 25% in the last year. I'm like, no way. Is that right? That much? I mean, I was really busy at my job. I wasn't really paying much attention to it. They're like, wow, is that normal? They're like, no, it's not normal, but it's happening. So they're like, you could probably borrow money out of your house, just FYI. And so I was like, wow, okay, well, there we go. I mean, really, it is now I'm thinking back about it, it kind of was a linchpin really for starting the business. Now, it turned out that all that kept going up to 2007, 2008. It all crashed, of course. I mean, theoretically, my house was underwater, but it didn't matter. I liked my house. I made my mortgage payment. I, of course, was smart enough not to get a variable rate mortgage. You could figure out that wasn't a good idea. You don't want your housing payment to be going up like crazy on you. And you could get a fixed rate mortgage at a completely fine rate at the time. I mean, it seemed great at the time. It was like 5% or 5.5%. Now that seems high, but, so I just stayed in the house and it came back and it was fine. And I was like, wow, I've bought this house. It worked out great. Sure. I went through the big Great Recession, but it still was fine, as long as you make smart moves. And then what ended up happening was we started the business. We're doing the business. It's going pretty good. We needed to go into a bigger space. And we're looking at renting a bigger space. And I'm just like, wait, I just had such a successful thing buying my own rental. I went from a renter to being a renter owner. I look at my house that way. I'm just the renter, but I'm also the investor in the property. And we were going to get a new space and in commercial, when you rent a space, you have to do the build out most of the time. You know what I mean? And I was like, wait, so I'm going to spend like $500,000 to renovate someone else's property? I'm saying to like the broker, they're like, that's pretty much how it works. And I'm like, all right, I know I'm new to this commercial real estate and all that, but that just seems crazy. So I'm like, we should be buying a place. Let's just do what we do with our house, but we're going to do it with our business. So that's what we did. Instead of renting a place, we bought a commercial building. Of course, I was like, I want to find a fixer. I want to create value out of this. I mean, we paid a lot in rent. So we bought the building. I think we bought for $3.5 million, which was a big deal to me at the time. And it was a tough deal to get through because actually we closed on it in March of 2008. And then like Lehman Brothers did our loan. And then 4 months later, Lehman Brothers went belly up and it was kind of crazy. But we made it through that. And then we made a bunch of money with it. We parlayed that, did another bigger building, which is actually what I did right before I moved. And that was a $10 million project.
Wow, don't you just love this conversation? This is amazing. This is fantastic. And so just really quickly, I just wanted to remind you, for those of you that are looking to create more options for yourself, get there faster, and do that with long distance investing, make sure that you go to billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid so that you can avoid all those mistakes, get to your goals faster and sooner. Once again, that's billykeels.com/7 mistakes to avoid. Now back to the conversation. What did you learn? What did you learn through the Lehman kind of thing? Because there was, of course, obviously a lot of attention, let's say.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't an easy time. So what did you learn through that?
Well, it was a tough time in that Lehman Brothers closed our loan, and actually it was very late in closing. They sent us the money like 5 days later than it was supposed to, and it was like people were confused, and then it all made sense after. But our construction financing, which was like a bridge loan, that company went out of business. Right before we closed, we lost our construction financing, which is crazy. So I had to like scramble. And at that time, banks weren't doing an inspection of the property that they were lending to you.
Right. Yeah.
So they were just well, you lost your construction finance, but you can use the building as is, right? Because I mean, we couldn't not close. We were going to lose a bunch of money.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, we can use it as is, but that actually wasn't true. I'm like, but I'm just going to scramble and try to figure out how I can get some renovation done and, continue my plan. And the first thing I did is I went to the seller and I said, listen, you're going to have to lend me a bunch of money. I know you're making a ton of money in this building. You're going to have to give me a $125,000 loan for renovations, or we're going to leave this. We're going to cancel the escrow. We're going to lose $200,000. But more importantly, you're going to have to go remarket your building today as we're going into this recession. So I don't think you're going to want to do that. So I think you should just give me give me a loan. I'll pay you back in 3 years, 10 points. And he did. So that was kicked off a renovation. And then I cobbled together other weird bits of financing to get a partial renovation done, like a partial plan, but just to get us in there. Of course, about 75% of the way through, my general contractor goes belly up, and basically I lost about $75,000 that I had given him that he misappropriated to other customers until he completely ran out of money. I mean, kind of not, everybody was going out of business at that point. So what I learned from that was if you're going to do a pretty high ticket renovation, use some sort of construction escrow company. Usually if you're getting a bank loan for construction, they'll act as that person. They'll be the sort of go-between you and the contractor, making sure the contractor is fulfilling all of the duties for which they've been paid to that date. You can get a third party sort of essentially, construction escrow company to be that third party administrator of the funds. I did not have that. I was just dealing with the contractor directly. He was taking my money, and generally he wasn't trying to screw me, but all his new work dried up. He wasn't managing his cash flow well. He ended up paying, subs on other clients' jobs just to, keep things moving. And then all the incoming money dried up. And he's like, calls me one day and he's like, I'm tapped. I have nothing left. I had about 75 grand of your money went somewhere else. There's nothing I can do. I'm filing for bankruptcy. I'm really sorry.
So here's the thing. And so there's a number of different lessons that come through that. And just the one thing that I want the Going Long family to understand is that all of this started right from you recognizing that you had some additional equity locked up in your property. You were able to pull that equity out, you parlayed it into something else. And then it sounds like you learned from that first experience, and then you continued to parlay that into multiple other opportunities, and also building business, creating relationships. And then you had a specific learning opportunity where you realized that, hey, listen, 75 grand of money that I sent somewhere has been sent around to someone else. And I don't necessarily know if I had controls on where it was and how it was. And now you've talked about the escrow. So I want to, if I've understood that correctly, in making sure that the Going Long family also understood that, I want to pivot into how you're also helping people today with that similar type of experience. Maybe tell us a little bit about what you're doing today.
Yeah, well, today, so since leaving my business that I was in for 12 years, I basically left, and I didn't particularly have so much of a plan, really. I mean, I did really well with the real estate, to be honest. Did well in my business. We saved a lot of money. I mean, and I believe in financial prudency and counting all your money and knowing how much you make and knowing how much you spend. And I work the money that I've earned, and I'm very focused about it. And part of what I preach is being financially prudent, business minded, and investing focused, and that's kind of what I try to help people learn how to be. But I decided to start a blog basically to share, my knowledge and experience. And also because I was learning about blogs and learned that, hey, this is a place where people are actually making some real money, but they're able to do it in a flexible way. one of the things that about my old business that got hard for me is that it was just very demanding. Like, we had an actual location. Our space is about 12,000 square feet. We had 35 employees. Like, this was a lot of work. Like, it just takes up everything you have to do that. And, maybe I could try to be an absentee owner and whatever, but I never saw that as working well. And frankly, when me and my partners left our old company, that guy who owned that company was an absentee owner. And what had ended up happening is a bunch of his employees took a bunch of business and went and started their own company, and he went on a business. So I saw someone try to do the whole 4-hour work week thing with their business. And I saw how it completely is a potential disaster for him. And he was in his late 50s at that time. And it really, caused a big issue for him in his life. So I don't really believe that, but it was just a lot. And like I said, I told you before, we had our first kid, or our only kid. So these first 3 years of his life, I was just like working all the time, just doing my normal thing. Before the kid, that was fine. I loved it. I loved my business. It wasn't like I didn't want to be there, but it just, once you have the kid, the priorities change. And for me, the type of person I am, I can't just let things go when I leave the office, at 7, it's like they're with me all weekend, I'm on the phone. And so you can't really be a good dad when you're doing that. So I was like, we got to find something that, can be mobile. I don't need a lot of employees, if any employees, but we can make some good money. You know what I mean? And we saw the blog and consulting as a way to achieve that. So my blog's called Play Louder, and it just really started out, it's like work smarter, plan better, play louder. Essentially, it's like work really hard in the earlier years of your life, set yourself up to be able to have a more mellow, what I call third act, 40 to 60, where you're not just working like a dog, you actually can like enjoy life before you hit the rocking chair. I'm sharing all of my knowledge basically on that platform. I do have some courses too. And then a lot of my friends who own companies, I started to like help one of them. Actually, I should say, when I left my business, my partners were like, they weren't excited about me leaving. I mean, personally, they were happy for me, but I did a lot there. And they're like, well, what if we just pay you to manage the finances still? Because you always did that. And like, none of us can do that. And you can do it from wherever, And so I was like, yeah, totally. So we made an agreement, a monthly retainer, and I'm like the CFO still. But then when I was telling other friends that I was doing that, they're like, oh man, I totally need that for my business. I need that. We need someone to help us with the money. Will you do that? Are you doing that? And I'm like, okay, yeah. So, and now, I have like a dozen clients basically. And my pitch to business owners is, your business and your business finance is one thing. That's great. We have to manage those. And everybody seems to be on the same page that you need to manage your business finances with a computer. Like that just seems like the right thing to be doing, right? Yeah. And I'm like, it is, of course. But you also need to be doing that with your personal finances, because you're in business to ultimately make money that goes into your personal savings account, from which you will be able to retire or live out other aspects of your life that you want to live out.
Stuff. You'll be able to do stuff. Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention to the personal component of your money, you are going to potentially overspend. You're not going to save enough. You're not going to set yourself up. It's like you're running the business of you as well as the business XYZ. So I'm really trying to train my clients to getting into that mindset. And then of course, like, well, what if you just do it all for me? Can you just do the business and the personal? Because I don't have time for any of it. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. So I do that. I kind of do for people what I used to do for myself. And then naturally, they're trying to save. We have a savings plan. We actually have a roadmap to their retirement, like an actual plan, like how much you need to save every year and how much that money needs to earn every year and where it's going to get you. And we figure out how, when your kids get to college age, you're going to pay for that and you're going to have enough money for that and all that jazz. And then still be able to retire on the beach with the margarita. You need to have a plan for all that. That stuff just doesn't happen on its own. And people are always like, Yeah, I have no plan for that.
Yeah. Well,
I feel like I'm scared talking to you, Joe, because I'm realizing that I've done nothing like to plan for any of that. And I'm like 42 years old. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, that's why I'm
you
here.
Get to a certain, I was going to say, you get to a certain point where you actually need to have somebody that puts that mirror in front of you, right? Because then once the mirror's in front of you, you realize, oh, wow, I need to get working on these particular aspects, especially in your life, if you want to achieve them. Because if you don't have it written down, you don't have a plan, then there's a high probability that you will never achieve any of the things that you're trying to achieve, because hope is not a strategy. I've learned that for many years and 24 some odd years of being in sales and sales leadership. So I guess before we get into the going long final three, because we got to get into the going long final three, it's just a matter of, once again, Joe, you're showing where you've had life experiences, and those life experiences have not only built relationships, but even when it was the moment for you to leave the business that you were in, the other people that were owning the business with you recognized that you had a particular strength in this area and then wanted to retain your services. While you were doing that, you're still able to really get out of life what it is that you want to do, which is spending time with more quality time with your wife and your child. So I think that when you're, even as a busy professional, which are so many people that are here in the Going Long family, you can recognize that the things that you're doing today, keep doing them, get really, really good at them, because eventually it will open up or create new opportunities for you. I mean, you've just talked about being able to have a retainer, and that helps you to continue to maintain a certain portion of life. Just like when you left New York and went to LA, well, you were able to do that because, you had those particular skill set, and you were, fine with being able to go out there, and guess what? You were able to make it happen again. So with that stated, the thing is, we got to get into the going long final three, Joe. And the thing is, I never ask anybody to go long final three.
If you start me
it's
talking,
all good.
I'll
It's all
talking,
good.
so,
No, it's all good. Well, that's why they let me host. They let me. They let me host. They let me host and say, Billy, you know what? Just go ahead. Just you let them talk, and then after a while, you got to jump in and let them go and all that kind of stuff. So the going long final three, I never ask anybody unless you tell me that you're ready for me to ask you. So are you ready?
I am.
I knew you'd be ready.
I'm always ready, man.
Here's the thing. Always ready, Joe. So here's the thing. Right. We started with you over in Florida today. Now I'd like to bring it back to this side of the pond where I am and help us understand, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or still on your bucket list to visit?
Well, it's hard to pick a favorite,
Well, you got to pick one. Joe, you got to pick one.
But I'm going to go. I did a semester abroad in college in Florence, Italy.
Yeah.
And my random roommate from that trip, became my longest friend, became my business partner. We started those companies together. We worked together all our adult lives. And it was a pretty just amazing trip, and also amazing that I met John, and we had such a good friendship and did so many things together. So that's my favorite.
So Florence is your favorite. Firenze. Okay, perfect. So we love that. There's another vote. For some reason, that's an amazing city. They get so many votes. Here's the other thing, Joe. Question number 2 really has a lot to do with insights that I've gained being very, very fortunate to work with a lot of very successful people. Right. And I consider you to be someone who's very successful. You've made lots of impact on people's lives. Yes. And so one of the things that I've recognized with really successful people, one of the main reasons that they're very successful, Joe, and hopefully you'll agree with me, is that they, unlike most people, when they're trying to do something, they do it the first time and they get it right, which means they're going to go much faster. Did I just say that? I think I messed that up. No, it's just a joke. It's a joke, Joe. It's a joke. It's a joke. It's an inside joke with me and the Going Long family. They all know. All
right.
But no, here's the reality. And I'm glad you were listening to him. I'm glad you were listening to me. So here's the thing, and this is no joke. This is all honesty here. Everybody makes mistakes. A lot of mistakes. And especially really successful people. They make probably 10 or 15 times more mistakes than most people, but they do one thing very, very differently. And I hope that you agree. And this is no joke. Whenever the really successful people make mistakes or learning opportunities, or however you want to call them, they always stop to learn a lesson after the mistake. And they then put strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that same mistake happening again. And so I don't want you to think about the mistake, but just very quickly, I would like for you to tell us, what's the one lesson that that the Going Long family needs to hear today that's going to help them move forward faster in their journey?
Well, there's so much to talk about, I guess, in that arena. I agree that, of course, if you're trying things, you're going to make mistakes, or, you're going to have essentially what turn out to be learning opportunities. But you really have to, I've spent a lot of time dissecting all the things, have gone wrong. And I basically just try to put that check on my list of next time when you go do that again, you're not going to make that mistake, or, you're going to see that coming, and be able to dodge it because you've had it happen to you before, and you can recognize it, and you can, dodge that obstacle. So, I mean, I know it's pretty basic, but I mean, that's basically it. It's just like, learn from the errors you've made, and, don't make those mistakes again, and help people when you're, in my case, where I'm in a position to, guide people now, help them to avoid those mistakes as best they can.
All right. Sounds great. So it sounds like going out and getting the experience. Don't worry about making the mistake, but take the lesson away from that. So I appreciate you.
The funny thing is thinking about the, sorry to cut you off, back to that building. I mean, when I was telling that story of that building, it might have sounded like a bad story. Like, wow, I don't necessarily want to do that. And there were a bunch of bad things that happened in there. But in the end, just because there were a bunch of mistakes in there or things that went wrong, it still worked out super great for us. We persevered, we saw it through to the end as best we could. And in the end, it paid huge dividends. And as you had mentioned, we parlayed those profits into yet more real estate, which also has now done well. So just because things go wrong or can go wrong doesn't mean you shouldn't do them. Don't
stop, keep moving forward. So appreciate that. And then Joe, to wrap it up with the third of the Going Long Final Three, it's always about being able to fill our minds with information. And so I would love for you to share what is the one book that you would recommend to us today.
Well, there's a book I read recently. It's called The Lost Science of Compound Interest. It's by this guy, Curtis Ray. And I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's in a sense, really a brochure. Curtis Ray kind of puts out this product called the MPI account. I'm not affiliated with him. I actually have an account. I vetted the whole thing. I really liked it. I signed up. I'm a customer essentially. Mm-hmm. And his book is kind of a long brochure essentially for what he's doing. But in there is a lot of great information as well. And it's all about what I call the conundrum of retirement planning. And essentially in America, if you follow general common wisdom about retirement planning, you're going to save a bunch of money in a pot. At some point, your hope is it'll be making a 7% return. You pull out 4%, 3% stays in the account to keep up with inflation, and you have this money machine. And that all sounds good. And that's pretty much what everyone pitches. The problem with that is in order to have $100,000 of income, you need $2.5 million in your pot. And very few people, unfortunately, have anything near that. But there really is no other kind of approach to retirement planning that anyone really talks about. And then I ran into Curtis basically because he was on a podcast that I also went on. And he was talking about it and saying all these things that just are always running through my mind, and trying to, as I'm helping my clients try to plan, when I tell them that math, they all get scared, rightfully so. So he endeavored to make an approach or a product about retirement planning that tries to solve that problem. Mm-hmm. And I think he's onto something. And I think his book is chock full of really good data and information about why it's a problem and why his approach is a good solution. So I'm recommending it to people to read, whether or not, you buy it or you sign up, obviously whatever, but I just think even it's a good read just for general knowledge about what you're up against in trying to put together a reasonable income for your retirement.
Awesome. So The Lost Science of Compound Interest. So we will include that in the show notes as well, Joe. And man, these conversations fly by, man. I'm just thinking about you. I'm thinking about you as a break dancer, and then figuring out afterwards that that at 10 you realize that, hey, your parents are separated. You've got to do this. You had mom on one side and you had dad on the other side, building businesses, family involved. You realized that there were some things that you wanted to be able to do. You followed your goals. You followed after your university. You get your post-production. You go to New York City. You have your girlfriend there, you all are there, and you realize, wow, we're going to be doing this for the rest of our lives. Maybe we should kind of take a break. And so you go out west and you figure out, hey, this is great. You go up and down the coast and you find LA as a home. You get that first property. You parlay through the home equity line of credit, and you've been able to parlay that over and over and over and over. And so you continue to find your goals, your dreams. And I know that there are a lot of people that are here that are listening or watching us, one of the two, and they're like, man, I want to get in touch with Joe. I want to find out more about what he's doing. So help us understand what is the best way for the Going Long family to find out more about you or to get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, you can go to my website, playlouder.com. Work smarter, plan better, play louder. Or you can email me, joe@playlouder. I'm not a big social media person. I mean, I put my stuff out on my social media channels, but I don't really go on social media. I don't really have time. So hit me up. And I wanted to last thought and kind of follow up and let people know those buildings and doing that stuff actually translated into, I think I've transacted and owned about 16 different properties, over the last 15 years. So it actually kept growing. I kept seeing the benefit of real estate and just kept going and buying more. And that really actually made a huge difference in our ability to do what we did and change up our lives. So
Fantastic.
FYI, I like real estate and I do help people kind of figure out how to do it and give guidance on it. And I have some courses on that on my website, but also I just have a good basic course about financial planning and planning for your retirement. It's called the Financial Independence Roadmap. And it's all the stuff I've made for myself. I've packaged it up and, you can have it for yourself as well.
Awesome. Perfect. So Going Long family, go check it out. Playlouder.com. You can find Joe there and he's giving you his email. We'll include that in the show notes as well. Joe, man, I just want to thank you very much for investing your time with me and the entire Going Long family today, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me, man.
Awesome. Hey, Joe, just give me 2 seconds. I just want to say a couple of last parting shots to the Going Long family. Listen, family, Joe left it here. He gave you so many different ideas and he's talked to you about his real life experience. He's even given you a way to reach out to him directly. He's given you his email. So go ahead and take him up on the offer, connect with him. And you know what? Until then, I'm really looking forward to welcoming you back on the very next conversation. So go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Wow. Don't you love hearing from top-notch experts in the field? When I was getting started, I really wish that I would have had access to such experts. And even more, I wish they would have given me a really simple list of things to follow so that I could have gotten to my goals much faster and been much happier even sooner. So that's why I've created for you the 7 things that you should avoid in order to be successful in long-distance investing. And you can pick that up really easily by going to billykeels.com/7 things to avoid. And also, if you liked today's episode, don't forget to leave a 5-star review. I'm looking forward to seeing you on our very next episode, so go out and make it a great day.